was fun. I love this sport. I gave it my all. It's fucking crazy. I had a blast, and thank you to all the fans and everyone.
All right, folks, it's over. Anthony Joshua knocks out Jake Paul in the 6th round of their fight on Netflix.
Style that would align with a ring that size, a negative style, as we mentioned. It really comes down to the fan interest. Jake Paul is on a 2-fight stretch coming into this one, which really put his reputation on the line.
Boxing experts talk about Jake Paul may be quitting after his big knockout loss to Anthony Joshua. Jake has said that after he finishes his boxing goals, he wants to leave and play in the NFL. This shows a very big change in his life as a famous sports person.
NFL after this. Like legitimately just to play like safety and just deck people. No, I swear to God, I'm about to bring hella ratings to whatever team I'm on.
Where would you want to go if you can go to any team?
Shit, the Browns.
So
I can run a 4.34.
He's the fastest man on the planet.
I got hands. I have the size, the power. I can knock people out with one punch. So why can't I play free safety?
Do you think you coming into the NFL would be the equivalent of like when an NFL player says, I'm going to try to box now?
No, because I played football my whole life. At the end of the day, it's coverage, knowing your plays, and then just being fast and willing.
The boxing world talks a lot about the match. An old user says after the big knockout that Jake Paul's time in boxing is finished. He wrote, "Jake Paul lost. His career is over. This guy is done." Duke McKenzie talks about the fight too. He shows how small Jake Paul looked against Anthony Joshua. He says that even when Jake tried to hit him, he could not reach AJ well. This shows the fight was not fair. McKenzie says very clearly that Jake should stop this now. Fighting like this is dangerous and bad for his name in boxing.
Paul tried to throw a shot, he would lunge in, jump in, and because he was so short, he'd miss. And then he ended up stumbling over his feet and falling over. Sometimes in that fight, he reminded me of, have you seen that Kung Fu film called The Drunken Master? Except for he wasn't a master. As a Kung Fu guy who walks around and normally kicks people's ass, but he looks drunk all the time. That's what that fight reminded me of. It was such a poor showing from Jake Paul. You know, I mean, it's a well-documented fact. There was a lot of money on the line, and I'm sure you, Max, as I would, and anybody else in the street would fight Anthony Joshua for 75 million. You just would, and the same thing would happen. And even after the fight, now the fight's over, the 75 million.
Another old user, Chelsea, talks with lots of feeling about Jake Paul's big loss. She shared her true thoughts and felt happy, writing, "I do not come here much now, but I am very glad Jake Paul lost. Maybe now he will be quiet." Former UFC winner Michael Bisping talks about Jake Paul's big defeat by Anthony Joshua, calling it a perfect lesson. He says how badly Jake was hurt. He noted that AJ's strong hits and fast punches left Paul with no place to go. Even though Jake tried to get away from the hits by running, he could not hide from the pain. Bisping says that the harm to Jake's face and body was very bad. This makes it clear he needs rest before any more fights. The match showed Jake's weak points against the best.
In my humble opinion, because I'm a big Anthony Joshua fan. Of course, I've been a supporter for the longest time. A rather lackluster, unmotivated Anthony Joshua that didn't look like he was being particularly nasty, right? A lot of the time he was out of range, and okay, it is hard to land a shot on someone that's backing up and moving away the whole time. And there was a lot of times where he had him in the corner and he could have thrown a shot. And sometimes he was telegraphing his shots. And anytime he did go in to throw a punch, as I said before, Jake Paul would shoot in and turn it into a wrestling match. And even when he wasn't shooting in, he was clinching a lot. This is boxing, it's not MMA as we know. The referee should have done a much better job of getting in there and separating them much, much faster. As I say, it was the 6th round. I think it was the 4th round he got dropped twice. In the 5th round he got through it. In the 6th round, caught him with the jab, and a glancing right hook. He goes down, and that was that. That was all she wrote, right? I did a live. There was about 9,000 people watching at one point. Nobody was particularly enjoying the matchup. Listen, okay? I respect both men. I respect anyone really that steps into the ring, okay? And certainly going up against Anthony Joshua, that was a tall task, okay? You know, metaphorically and figuratively, right? It was a tall task. It was a big job. It was a tough opponent. It was a mismatch, and it was, right? Jake Paul never worried Anthony Joshua once. He never rung his bell. He never caused any damage. He never had him worried. He never did anything. It wasn't a fight. It was a display of how long can Jake Paul last? Can he run away long enough to...
Old user Cabarol's finest talks about Jake Paul's big injury. He told everyone how bad it was by writing, Jake Paul went to the hospital because his jaw might be broken. The guy was forced to stop boxing forever. Sean Jones talks about the hard fight between Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua. He says that at least the match was real and not fake. He says that even though Jake's jaw got broken, AJ did not even use all of his strength. This means the knockout could have been much worse. Jones talks about how bad the injury is but says the fight was a real one. He thinks that Jake had a very hard test. The match showed how tough it is to fight a top boxer like Joshua. This makes the injury feel even more serious for the young fighter now.
But all those people who were fully convinced that this fight was 100% rigged, like people said that this is a clown show, and they said, this is rigged, this is scripted. Okay, so now Joshua's won. What are you going to say to that? So was it scripted that Joshua was going to win? You see this whole narrative about, oh, the fight's rigged, the fight's scripted. That's illegal to do, and Joshua is not going to tarnish his legacy by doing something like that. Would Jake Paul do something like that? Maybe so, yeah, but not someone like Joshua. Come on. Now, to be fair, 80% of that fight was looking a little bit dodgy. It was looking like Joshua wasn't throwing as much as he usually would. Jake Paul was landing on Joshua. He landed a really strong jab that knocked Joshua's head back. He landed a couple of decent overhand rights. In fact, Jake was kind of the first one who landed the biggest shots of the fight. But this is the thing, anyone who fights, even on like a low-level basis, or who just does some sparring will understand that when you fight someone who has got nowhere near the skill level as you, sometimes it can be a little bit harder because they're awkward. They're doing stuff that you don't really expect. You know, sometimes when you fight beginners, it's a bloody nightmare. Just like, you know, awkward movements. You're like, what are they throwing? You don't expect certain shots to come that do come. And then you fight someone who's a little bit more traditionally sound with the fundamentals, and it's almost a little bit easier. And I think that's what we've seen here in this fight. AJ has had an easier time with some fighters who've got like 40 professional fights with 20 KOs on the record than he did with Jake Paul. Why is that? Oh, because it's scripted. It's scripted. No, it's not scripted. It's just because Jake Paul is awkward and he's a beginner in relation to Joshua. So Joshua just took some time to figure them out. You could see Joshua was getting a little bit frustrated in that 4th and 5th round, but then he started.
User Mir7. Juan tells Jake Paul a loud warning after he lost. He tells him to leave the sport by writing, do everyone a favor and do not come back. True boxing fans are tired now. Expert Liam Goff says that Jake Paul is in big trouble after his hard loss to Anthony Joshua. Goff says that the paths for Jake's boxing life are now shut because he has very bad injuries that need a long time to fix. Having a broken jaw and other body problems means Jake must move back and think only about getting well again. Goff says that until Jake is all better, any plans to fight again must wait. The expert says that this time is very important for Jake's health and his future in all pro sports. This makes the whole thing look very serious and worrying for the fighter right now.
When he had that face-off with Tank Davis, he was looking at a guy who was, 5-6 inches shorter than him and probably 60-70 pounds lighter, right? So he was probably looking at that thinking, yeah, you're a legit boxer, yeah, you hit very hard, but look how much bigger I am to you. Contrast that to him looking up at Anthony Joshua and realizing, oh my God, look at the size of you in comparison to me. That's a bit different. And I think with Jake Paul, it really dawned on him what's going on. But Jake Paul has to keep face. He has to stay essentially in that persona that, you know, I am the man, I'm going to win this, trying to sell a dream to a casual, a bit like what Eddie Hearn does, trying to sell the casual audience that this is going to be a real fight, quote unquote. It was a real fight. It's not scripted, but you know what I mean, that he's really in this fight. That's what he was trying to do. And he did that well up until fight night. Boy, did he fail miserably on fight night. Again, I give him credit. He doesn't need to box. He can choose an easier profession, as I say. But to go in and to run around the ring like that, that was something else entirely. I mean, he was doing his best Roadrunner impression in there. He was running around that ring from the minute that bell went. That was all he was trying to do. And listen, AJ's performance, I can critique it from a defensive point of view, that he got hit with some silly shots that he probably shouldn't have been hit with. He was trying to cut the ring off in a ring as big as that. It's not easy. All right. And furthermore, if you're in there with an opponent who purely just wants to survive, he's no interest in winning the fight. He just wants to go the rounds. People, you could be one of the most you could be a prime Mike Tyson, Bone Crusher Smith, prime example. People never talk about that fight with Mike Tyson because they say, oh yeah, prime.
After getting hurt in his last fight, Jake Paul tells fans on X about getting better and his health now. He says thank you to his doctors while knowing the hard path ahead. He wrote, "Just finished my surgery. Everything went well. Thank you for the love. I have much pain and feel stiff. I must only drink food for 7 days. Thanks to the great team at Miami University Hospital, everyone was very kind and nice." Wade talked about Jake Paul's last fight. He said that while Jake might feel he did everything, part of the reason was that he does not have to keep many belts. He could just focus on big money fights in the next year. Wade thinks about matches with big stars like Canelo, or maybe a slow year for Jake. He says a huge fight against Tyson Fury can happen if Jake works hard. But he warns that Jake was not at AJ's level in skill, size, power, speed, or stamina. Still, he respects him for getting in the ring. Wade also saw the talk on social media. He praised Jake for trying such a hard test even with the bad result. He calls the whole thing a great show for boxing fans.
2026, and I don't think he fights a ton in 2026. I think it'll be a very slow year for him. Look for those two guys as the main two he would fight. I wish it was Tommy Fury, but I doubt it. On the other side, I want to see him get back into boxing specifically, get back into committing to this, because there is a massive, massive fight that awaits him in Tyson Fury. It's far past time that it happened. If they don't do it now, they never will. And yeah, man, I don't really know what else to say on this fight. As far as, what happened in there tonight, I know on Twitter, people are going to want their money back, or they're going to call it a bad fight or a sloppy fight or whatever. And then there's going to be people, celebrating Jake's downfall. That was always going to be the case. Of course, the first time he gets rocked, dropped, and stopped, people are going to celebrate like it's the 4th of July, or it's their birthday, or like it's Christmas. So yeah, expect that, but I won't do that here. I won't, because I respect the hell out of him for going and doing it, and there's not any normal people on earth that would have done it. I don't care if you say, oh, for the money.
Another old user, Zane, talks about the big news of Jake Paul's hurt face. He feels shocked and worried about how bad it is, writing, Jake Paul says he has 2 jawbones broken, snapped, and he might never be able to box again. AJ broke Jake Paul's jaw. Anthony Joshua really hurt him bad. That is very sad. Jake Paul's last loss against Anthony Joshua has left him with a very bad injury. Now it is true that he has a broken jaw. This hurt is big enough to keep him away from boxing for 1 whole year. According to health experts and sports people, getting better from 2 broken jaws needs lots of rest, help, and close watch to make sure no more problems happen. This means Jake must stop all of his fighting plans for now. Fans and experts, too, are feeling worried. They say that a fighter's health is the most important thing, especially after such a hard loss. Jake himself has told fans about his health. He said thank you to his doctors and told people about the pain and hard times during his rest. With his jaw broken, he cannot practice or fight safely, so the main goal now is getting fully well. This injury makes a very big stop in his boxing life.
That thought that the Anthony Joshua-Jake Paul fight was going to be rigged, these x-rays definitely tell a different story. So on December 19th of 2025, as I'm sure most of you are probably aware, Jake Paul fought the 2-time unified heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua at the Kaseya Center in Miami, Florida, which was streamed exclusively on Netflix as part of a major boxing event that was promoted by Paul's Most Valuable Promotions. The ending result was Anthony Joshua won by knockout in the 6th round after Jake Paul was knocked down 4 times in total, twice in the 5th round and twice in the 6th round. Anthony Joshua landed 48 punches on Jake Paul compared to Jake Paul landing about 16 on Anthony Joshua. And this is the 2nd professional loss of Jake Paul's fighting career, dropping his record down to 12-2. Now, Jake Paul ended up suffering a double broken jaw during the fight and was taken to the hospital afterward, skipping the post-fight press conference, probably because he probably couldn't talk. But in his in-ring interview, he said, "That was crazy. I had a blast. I think my jaw is broke." Anyway, as far as his professional fighting career is concerned, as of December 20th of 2025, he doesn't have any new opponents that have been announced, and it's expected that his jaw injury is going to take 4 to 6 weeks to recover from. Regardless of how you feel about him, that dude fought a 2-time heavyweight champion and survived. And I think we can all agree that regardless of how you feel, that takes some serious...
Experts Brian Campbell and Shaquille Majuri talked on CBS Sports to explain Jake Paul's last fight. They gave a deep look at his plan and how he played. They said that Paul worked hard on staying away, always moving and not getting stuck in corners. This helped him stay in the ring longer than people thought. But they asked how he could truly fight for a top title without being more strong against the best boxers. Campbell said that Paul's fame might be the main thing keeping his career going, not just his skill. He talked about big money fights like KSI or another match with Tommy Fury as good ways to earn. They also said that Paul's safe style and liking for a very big ring show that making fans happy and having fun might be more important to him right now than winning real sports titles.
For him in terms of what he's doing in the boxing ring.
Listen, so long as people will tune in and so long as Jake Paul is paid by Netflix or any broadcaster to air his fights, we're going to see this continue. And Jake Paul knows his business model, right? Now, this deviated, this AJ fight, which came together kind of last minute after the Tank Davis fight fell apart. But we know Jake Paul's MO here. It's find the most popular guy with the most physical disadvantages for me to fight. And Jake Paul has the benefit that he's turned himself into a villain, or in the pro wrestling circles, a heel. People tune in to watch. We did not tune into this fight to see competitive boxing. Most of us tuned in because we thought, here's Anthony Joshua. Here's a two-time unified heavyweight champion, a guy who physically just overwhelms Jake Paul. And we're finally going to get what Tyron Woodley and Anderson Silva, Nate Diaz were not physically fit, whether it be through their size, experience, or age to do, and that is knock out Jake Paul. And so because I don't really feel like we got that satisfying comeuppance that a lot of people have been waiting for, it kind of gives Jake Paul a little bit of mystique, I'd almost say, to still try and string this along. Now, I don't know in terms, he says he wants to be cruiserweight champion. I'm not quite sure what the competitive road there is, because let's make no mistake, the reason this fight lasted as long as it did is because Jake Paul focused exclusively on being elusive. He did his best, and kudos to him, right? He did a great job of not getting cornered. He was always on the gas until the gas sort of fell out from underneath him. And so I don't quite know, short of leveraging his popularity, how he's going to get to that title shot if he's not actually going to fight, like really fight an elite boxer. But if he's looking to make money, there's the KSI fight out there. There's the Tommy Fury rematch. There is ways for Jake Paul to...
That is all for today. See you soon.